All right, welcome to the Active Life program. We're going to be doing a special presentation today on circadian rhythm and how to get your energy levels adapted for the day so that you're waking up with energy and so that you're burning fat and that overall you're living an active life. Obviously, you know about me, so we'll kind of just skip through this. But I want to start by talking about what circadian rhythm actually is. So, circadian rhythm is your internal biological clock that regulates a variety of various physiological processes, including your sleep wake cycle, hormone production, body temperature, metabolism. And it follows typically a 24-hour cycle that is influenced by several different cues, such as, light and darkness. So disruptions to your circadian rhythm, such as regular sleep schedule, maybe you're going on a flight, maybe you have some family come over, you stay up late, or you're having exposure to artificial light. All these things can lead to health problems, including obviously hormonal imbalances and sleep disorders. So in this presentation, we're going to be focusing on how we can use functional medicine principles to help you in the program optimize your circadian rhythm, improve your cortisol levels, increase evening melatonin, and specifically reduce pineal gland calcification for overall better health. So the suprachiasmatic nucleus is in the brain's hypothalamus, and it serves as a master clock which regulates the body's circadian rhythm based on external light cues. And so the SCN influences the release of hormones like cortisol, which typically peaks in the morning time. And its job is to promote, obviously, wakefulness and alertness. And it's supposed to decrease at night to facilitate sleep. So a well-functioning circadian rhythm is crucial for actually maintaining your physical, mental, and emotional health. And so it's super important that we are supporting this. And so as I referred to earlier, cortisol is often referred to as a stress hormone. It's released by the adrenal glands in response to stress and low blood glucose levels. So in the morning time, your cortisol levels typically rise to help to increase your body's alertness. It wakes you up. This is why I always say we want to wake up naturally, as if we're not using an alarm clock to allow this cortisol to peak when it's ready to wake you up naturally. And so adequate cortisol levels are essential for energy, mental clarity, and vitality, really. And so the typical morning routine that we want to focus on is first consuming a balanced breakfast or breaking your fast within an hour or two of waking to help you stabilize blood sugar levels, which will then help to support healthy cortisol release. And so I know we've talked about this in the program where a lot of you will you'll explain to me that, hey, I wake up, I have my cup of coffee, I maybe take the dogs for a walk, or maybe I just go right to work, or whatever the case is. And sometimes you're skipping breakfast or you're eating breakfast at 11 o'clock or noon. And though this can work occasionally, this can be something that you can do seldomly, it's not something that's great to do routinely because of how this disrupts your circadian rhythm. And that can actually influence sleep and influence stress hormones. And so the best thing to do is to wake up and have that breakfast within an hour or two of waking. Include those high protein meals like I provided in the program, and make sure you're getting healthy fats and obviously fiber rich foods within that first hour to 2 hour period. And then you typically want to consider adding in your coffee, if you are going to be drinking caffeine. And obviously it's a preference to kind of not do that and just to avoid caffeine. But if you are going to kind of help balance this, that's how you can best support your circadian rhythm, is by having the coffee afterwards. And then obviously the first thing we want to do before we even have a meal is get that exposure to initial sunlight exposure within the 30 minutes of waking, because this will help to, again, synchronize your circadian rhythm and to help to regulate your cortisol production. And so morning sunlight exposure suppresses melatonin, which will promote, again, wakefulness and alertness. And then we want to then focus on promoting melatonin later on in the day, which we'll be talking about here soon. And as I've talked about multiple times throughout this process in this program, throughout the rest of the day during your eating window, you want to be eating about 80% of your calories before 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And so this means having a lighter meal in the evening, which is an approach, obviously, that aligns with our natural circadian rhythm and can have several beneficial effects on our insulin and our cortisol regulation. So this dietary practice is consistent with intermittent fasting principles, and has gained a lot of attention, obviously, in recent years just because of the health benefits. But this is really what the biggest benefit, this is really where the biggest benefit comes from, is just eating with your natural circadian rhythm versus trying to, um, you know, like do like waiting till too late in the morning time or pushing yourself too long or fasting for too long periods. Like that doesn't have the biggest benefit. But some of the benefits to doing this and just eating with your circadian rhythm is insulin regulation. So insulin is another hormone that's produced by your pancreas. It regulates blood sugar levels, and it's facilitating the uptake of glucose into your cells. And so when we consume carbohydrates, they're broken down into glucose, which then leads to a rise in your blood sugar. And this is where we want to then have insulin come in and kind of put that sugar where it's supposed to go. And so eating the majority of your calories earlier in the day allows the body to utilize this energy efficiently throughout the active hours and reducing the need for excessive insulin production. It also can improve insulin sensitivity. So if you're having issues with diabetes or pre-diabetic or insulin resistance, this is again where it's going to be super important to consume larger meals during the daytime when cortisol levels are higher. And this again will lead to um, a better sensitization of your insulin during the daytime. So over time, this can contribute to an insulin. This can help to reduce insulin resistance, where your cells become more responsive to the sugar in your cells, and this can obviously lead to a reduction in your blood sugar levels overall, thereby reducing your likelihood of having insulin resistance. And so by focusing on lighter meals in the evening, again, insulin sensitivity can be improved, and this makes your cells more receptive to insulin's actions. The other thing that it can help you to do is cortisol regulation. So again, cortisol is a stress hormone. It's being produced by the adrenal glands and plays a role in regulating your metabolism and the body's stress response. Cortisol typically follows a diurnal pattern, meaning that the higher levels are in the morning to help us be alert and to be awake. And then in the evening, the levels start to drop so that we can prepare for sleep. So eating a significant proportion of your calories earlier in the day can support your body's natural cortisol rhythm. And so, again, this kind of gets back to what we talked about before, but just making sure you're eating a good high protein, high fat breakfast, and making sure you're doing that within the first hour or two of awakening, and then making sure that we are reducing nighttime overeating. So large, heavy meals in the evening can obviously disrupt sleep and contribute to weight gain. When we eat too much before bedtime, the body expends its energy on digestion rather than focusing on essential restorative processes during sleep. So it's like if you're going to bed and your body has a lot of work to do on hormone production or inflammation attention, and now all of a sudden you're forcing it to focus on digestion rather than those things, it just depletes its resources and it puts most of its attention and focus on digestion rather than restorative processes. And so over time, this can obviously lead to negatively impact insulin and cortisol levels and increase the risk of metabolic issues. And then obviously this impacts your weight substantially just by allowing your body to improve insulin sensitivity, reduce cortisol at nighttime, and helping to utilize energy properly throughout the day. All right, so that was a big one, big section there. This will be a little bit shorter. So understanding melatonin. So melatonin is an important hormone produced by your pineal gland in response to darkness. And so if your body's getting that initial signal, it has to come through channels that are being picked up through your pineal gland. And that's when it starts to indicate to the rest of the body, like, hey, we need to secrete more melatonin. And this obviously will decline. This should decline in the morning time. And so if you're still getting a reduction of cortisol and an increase in melatonin, a lot of people are often taking too much melatonin before bedtime and it stays in their system. And so they wake up very groggy, or they're not getting enough morning light into their room when they first wake up. And so there's not reducing melatonin naturally. And so obviously if you are taking melatonin, you want to take it for a short period of time and you want to have a very small dose, which I'll be talking about here soon. And then you also want to make sure that first morning light is hitting your eyes. And so if you're having like blackout curtains or things like that, and it's just too dark in your room, that's obviously going to have a big negative effect on your early morning stimulation to where you feel awake. So to increase evening melatonin, blue light reduction is obviously the first place we start. Oftentimes we have these blue light glasses we want to wear. They're trying to minimize exposure from electronic devices, smartphones, computers. Blue light inhibits melatonin production, making it harder to fall asleep. So using filters or blue light glasses are very important. And then we want to create an environment for sleep. So around 6 o'clock, if you're in the wintertime at least, you start getting that dip in the sunlight, and so that normally starts to stimulate a production of melatonin. However, if all the lights are really bright in your house, or you get a lot of flashing light from your screen, and you're not getting those natural cues to like that it's time for night, your body's not going to start making melatonin. So as the nighttime starts hitting around 7 o'clock at night, you should start dimming the lights in your home. You should start allowing that natural light production to be reduced, and so that your body is starting to cue you like, hey, it's time to fall asleep. And obviously, we want to then focus on eliminating any kind of noise disturbances. If you have like inconsistent sounds in your room, you want to definitely consider about maybe looking at like white noise or brown noise, like having a machine or something in your room that you can kind of just control that noise. Obviously, still needs to be kind of quiet, so it's not overly loud and stimulating, but that's one thing you can definitely consider. Doing deep breathing techniques, Himhoff breathing, just kind of doing that deep inhale through the nose, and then one more short inhale after a deep inhale, holding for about 4 seconds, exhaling for another 4 seconds, and then holding again for 4 seconds, and then doing it all over again. It's kind of that method you can do to kind of cause that relaxation to occur. Obviously, these activities can help to promote a calm mind and obviously more melatonin production. So definitely consider that. If you have more questions, let me know about just more methods on this. But let's talk about the pineal gland. So we talked about it a little bit already, but the pineal gland is a small gland located in the brain that plays a crucial role in producing melatonin. Over time, the pineal gland can definitely accumulate calcifications, and these can interfere with melatonin production and sleep-wake cycles. And so reducing your calcification can definitely support healthy melatonin production and overall circadian rhythm and rhythm balance, essentially. And so these are just some easy methods on how you can actually reduce pineal calcification. Obviously, hydration is super important, and it's essential for supporting detox pathways anyway, including the elimination of calcifying agents. You want to make sure you're obviously drinking water, adding in those electrolytes, those kind of things. Obviously, the meal plan we provide to you is rich in antioxidant foods. The supplements we recommend are high in antioxidants as well, and they're going to help to do that, just kind of reduce inflammation. And then the fluoride is another big one. So if you have fluoride in your toothpaste, fluoride in your water, which most municipal water has fluoride in it, you have to get like a filter to fluoride or to filter the fluoride out. Berkey is one company that supposedly does that. There's some people that say that there's a risk of lead toxicity by using Berkey filters. I don't know if that's substantiated or not, but there are filters that filter out fluoride from your water, and that would be a really good place to start as far as reducing calcification of your pineal gland. Some other supplements to consider that will help with this are obviously magnesium. I talk a lot about that already, but magnesium glycinate is my favorite as far as just a jack full of trades. 200 to 400 milligrams a day is typically what I recommend. I put in your magnesium oxide, but it's commonly used, but it's not a good one to use. So I should have prefaced that a little bit better. But magnesium oxide is not my favorite. Malate can be a good form as well. Obviously, vitamin D, it's pretty wide range. This is, again, something that most of you are taking in this program. If you're not, you definitely should consider it because it helps with this as well. Obviously, omega-3 fatty acids. This is another one we talked about extensively. We typically want to have high EPA, high DHA, over 600 milligrams a piece. The elite omega-3 fatty acids are the ones that I recommend, and they do have those levels. Sometimes, again, melatonin can be effective at taking it as a supplement. You usually want to take a small dose of 0.5 to 1 milligram about 30 minutes before you want to fall asleep. And it's in a variety of different forms. I typically like capsules, tablets, or more like sublingual things. I don't like gummies. Gummies typically have a bunch of dyes and maybe sometimes sugars. Not a great thing to be taking before you're going to bed. Phytosome myrrh or curcumin is, again, another way to help with this calcification. It's an antioxidant. It's super effective at that. Resveratrol is another form. It helps with blood sugar regulation. It's also an antioxidant as far as kind of some of its benefits. Helps with inflammation. So you can look at that one as well. Ashwagandha is another one. There's a variety of ashwagandha forms out there to consider. There's a couple of them in the program that I like as far as addressing cortisol. It's called Cortisol Calm, and it has ashwagandha, L-theanine, holy basil, some other cortisol reducing supplements in there. Now, the only trouble with this is if you're taking too much and you're waking up very groggy, it's probably because you're suppressing cortisol too much. And so I always say first focus on your hygiene, first focus on your morning and establishing that routine so that you can then start to build healthier patterns throughout the night, and then you can then consider supplements as a secondary option. Now, there is a quiz I provided in the program, and so you can just click the link down here below, and it'll kind of walk you through that quiz. But there are some symptoms of high cortisol versus low cortisol, and so that's something you can definitely consider. I think for most people, you just have to appreciate the fact that your cortisol is not broken. It's typically it's not like it, unless you have Cushing's disease or something like that, where it's like you're getting this dysregulated level of cortisol. It's usually just the fact that you're not setting your day up well. Like, you're not creating these good routines, and you're not having these good habits that we've just talked about, and you're not taking these basic supplements, and you're drinking too much fluoride, all that kind of stuff that's creating the problem. And so cortisol is just responding to your environment. And so if you can change your environment first, your cortisol should respond appropriately without you having to specifically target it with supplements. However, if you're experiencing consistent symptoms, you can look at these symptoms, and this will sometimes help to explain maybe where you currently are as far as your cortisol levels, and kind of some additional steps to take to kind of change those as needed. So I hope that makes sense for you there. So in conclusion, we can definitely balance circadian rhythm. It's crucial for overall health and well-being. Improving your morning cortisol, increasing evening melatonin, and reducing pineal gland calcification contribute to better sleep quality and hormonal balance and overall vitality. By incorporating these strategies, you can definitely, improve the way you feel. So focus on first that morning meal, controlling your initial morning sunlight exposure, and considering appropriate supplements that you can take to proactively establish a healthy circadian rhythm. And again, if you have more questions, definitely reach out to me as far as what those questions are. But otherwise, those are the basic principles that you should be considering implementing on a routine basis for having healthy hormones. All right. I hope that's helpful. Definitely reach out with questions, put them down in the comment section, and I will be sure to give you a Q&A. All right. Have a blessed day.